Good evening, wrestling community, and welcome to another edition of WrestleTalkShow. Today we'll have your wrestling news like we usually do, a recap of the TNA pay-per-view Against All Odds, match by match, give you the match length and outcome, along with, like we just said, your wrestling news for February 15th, 2011, and the last couple days before that since the last video installment. Hello, I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, and we'd like to thank our audience. Like always, without you, this would not be possible. We want to thank the success we've been having with the marketing package, if you will, for WrestleTalkShow. Things are going rather well. We're in talks with several local businesses, and once some more concrete, once we get final answers out of these guys, these businesses, they will be named. We don't want to make it seem like anonymity is what we're aiming for, but they haven't made a determination yet on their end. So once that happens, we will bring it directly to you and who was involved. So let's get right into it. In no particular order, mind you, the February 10th edition of TNA scored a 1.2 viewership rating. Last week, Booker T made his horrible first impression as SmackDown guest host, where he knew nothing about the product. One can only hope that that gets better this week, but don't hold your breath. Friday Night SmackDown for February 11th scored its lowest rating for the year for Sci-Fi of 1.75 viewership rating. WWE Monday Night Raw for February 7th, 2011 scored a 3.3 viewership rating. Tomorrow we'll have last night's Raw rating and recaps in another video, but we wanted to make sure we got the TNA pay-per-view out of the way. So don't think that we're behind. We're not. We are taking notes and watching the material. We just know we're not quite on the ball when it comes to releasing the outcome of the TNA pay-per-view, so we wanted to do that tonight. Maybe if I'm up to it, I'll put up another video with your Raw recaps and everything else like that. WWE hires Thomas Veit as Senior Vice President of Live Events. He will report to Executive Vice President Stephanie McMahon. He has former experience with World Wrestling Entertainment as he worked for Vince's XFL. We all remember the football league that never really went anywhere. He will be replacing Bret Hart, no, not the Hall of Famer, who departed with the company last week. And we can only hope that he'll do some good for the struggling live events division, as we heard on the conference call in the video a couple days ago. Live events not doing as good as it could be right now, but in comparison to other areas of their business, I'd say that this is the least of their worries, but still room for improvement. High-ranking WWE Chief Operating Officer Donna Goldsmith resigned from the company at the end of January, and her resignation is effective at the end of February. This past Sunday, not only was the TNA pay-per-view, but our condolences go out to Jerry the King Lawler and his family as his mother passed away. In other news, Chris Jericho, 2 days ago, did an interview for Fox News Monday morning promoting the new book, Undisputed. TNA promotes the return of Ric Flair to Impact following the Against All Odds pay-per-view, which is a given, but he'll be on this week's edition of Impact. Just to give you the major highlight before we get into the nitty-gritty, Jeff Hardy is once again your TNA World Heavyweight Champion. WWE announces a 4-hour block of WWE programming following WrestleMania. Slotted for that slotted for that Monday, which will be the day after the pay-per-view, and includes the WWE Hall of Fame. So between Raw and the Hall of Fame, you're going to get 4 hours of programming. Nothing different from any other year. I believe we put this down as news because it was read wrong, but every year both events are usually a 2-hour event, 2-hour televised events. Raw is weekly televised. The Hall of Fame is a yearly ordeal. And finally, last night, The Rock returned in a 20-minute segment on Raw, and formally announcing, among other things, formally announcing himself as the guest host for WrestleMania 27. Now, without further ado, I'd say it brings me great pleasure, but yeah, you know how I feel about TNA. So, but without further ado, we bring you the quickest recap I can think of TNA's Against All Odds pay-per-view. Started at 8 p.m. Eastern, occurred in Orlando, Florida, and the first match was Kaz versus Robbie E for the X Division title. Kaz delivers his inverse tombstone for the win after an 8-minute match and retains the X Division title. Next up, Scott Steiner and Beer Money versus Gunnar Murphy and Rob Terry. Top Rope Frankensteiner after 9 minutes by Scott Steiner gets the win after 9 minutes of wrestling. Your winners, Scott Steiner and Beer Money. Up next, Samoa Joe versus the Pope. Rear naked choke by Joe. Pope taps almost immediately after 8 minutes of wrestling. Next up, Madison Rayne versus Mickie James. Rayne KO's Mickie James and ref counts her out after 8 minutes. Next up, Matt Hardy versus Rob Van Dam. Matt tries for a moonsault, but RVD sidesteps him, hits the 5-star splash for a clean pin after 3 minutes of wrestling. So you can see how much hope they have in Matt Hardy. I was actually quite disappointed with this match. You would have been, the video package was bigger. And the interviews before it. There was more in the video packages and the interviews than there was in this match. For somebody you just obtained, you'd think you'd want to put him out there a little bit. I know he debuted last month, but what has TNA really done with him that WWE hasn't? Just a thought. If I have time, which I should, I'll get into it. But next up, Brother Devon versus Bully Ray in a street fight. Turns out Devon's kids are also part of this match. As you remember, I emphasized that kids and wrestling don't always equal ratings, but I was referring to the Angle Jarret feud, but I'd say it applies here, but here we go. Ray handcuffs Devon to the turnbuckle. Devon's kids try to unhandcuff him. Ray attacks the kids from behind. Big man gave one kid a boot to the face and made the cover. The ref does a 3 count on a child, so apparently after 10 minutes the kids were part of the match and Ray wins. Jeff Jarrett with Karen Angle versus Kurt Angle. Sunset flip by Angle, no go. Jarrett grabs the victory. Jarrett wins after 16 minutes. Your main event, Mr. Anderson versus Jeff Hardy in a ladder match for the TNA World title. Mic check. Anderson and Jeff both climb the rope. They exchange in punches. Anderson, to prevent Hardy from getting the belt, swings the belt so it's swinging back and forth so Jeff can't grab it. Both men fall off the ladder after exchanging blows. Hardy quickly back to his feet and up the ladder to grab the title, which makes everyone think that during this mic check spot and the punch spot and where Anderson started swaying the belt back and forth, that Hardy was actually supposed to grab it then because it was all too quick. After 21 minutes, Jeff Hardy is once again your TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Not much of a match, but some good ladder spots. It was a TNA pay-per-view. Tomorrow we'll review whether it was worth the $34.95, but that's a whole different rant. And I guess on that note, we'll get into this again. I'd like to think the Jarret Angle feud is resolved now that Jarret has won, but who knows? If TNA even remotely got a spike in ratings, they're going to think that it had something to do with the Hardy and Jarret matches they had, as they were the last two. Usually the one before the main event and the main event itself are your money makers. If you're a good booker and you're going in particular order. I don't know how many times I have to emphasize that kids, their weaknesses, flaws in family, divorces, etc., do not always equal ratings. And like I've been saying for weeks, and my colleagues have been saying, visit pwtorch.com for further details on this pay-per-view. Tune in tonight to smartwrestlingfan.com for their podcast, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, 3-hour podcast on the world of professional wrestling, including what's sure to be further details on the Against All Odds pay-per-view. But like I was saying, you'd think that now that these two matches have occurred, that the storylines can be put to bed. But like I said, don't hold your breath, because any sort of spike in ratings, TNA will think that they can keep going with it. Even though we've begged them to stop for weeks leading to this pay-per-view. For more details, please visit youtube.com/CWE Company for this video and every other video. Visit WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Friend us on both Facebook and Twitter at CWE Company. Send direct show emails to cwecompany@gmail.com. Interact on the forums. Do what you can, guys. We love that you're posting feedback on the site. What do you think of The Rock's return? We'll make that the question for the night. He kind of got a spike in ratings. His 20-minute segment did good for the ratings. I won't give away the ratings just yet, but there were rumors that Rock was going to be your guest host for Mania, and now it's confirmed, so all the guessing can be put to bed, and I think it's good. Vince kind of gave it away. Well, didn't really give it away, but I guess you could say he did, because we knew it wasn't going to be Stone Cold, because Stone Cold will be on Monday night for the debut of Tough Enough, and if it was going to be Stone Cold, Vince would have more or less put himself in a position where, don't buy the pay-per-view when you can see Stone Cold for free on cable the following night. So you want Mania sales. I'm going to love to see the buy rates that come out of that. Although I think they'll be a little inflated, as people will buy Mania just for the title. I always said if the pay-per-views got that bad, I would still buy WrestleMania, as it's the flagship pay-per-view. Mania and Royal Rumble and King of the Ring. But I can't even say that about King of the Ring, because they did that on free TV, which kind of shocked me. Kind of took away the essence of the King of the Ring. You want your qualifying matches on free TV, but the whole goddamn tournament was on free TV. Post whatever you think, guys. Like I said, we love the feedback. You can post your replies directly at the bottom of this video. Go to our Facebook page. Go to our forums page on the website, WrestleTalkShow.webs.com. Let us know what you think. Help us make a better product. And hopefully by the time that the next video comes out, we'll have more sponsorship information. As always, guys, thank you for your viewership. Stay tuned for Smart Wrestling Fan tonight. And have a great night.